and welcome to this webinar on operations challenges for East Africa businesses during the COVID-19. So I'm Eric Ducroix from Kaizen Consult, consulting and advisory firm specialized in supply chain and operations in sub-Saharan Africa, including lean methodologies and tools. We support international and local organizations to set up a lean supply chain, optimize their operations, and get into a culture of continuous improvement. I will be facilitating this webinar today with Jonathan Das from Delta Blade Consultants. So Jonathan, if you want to introduce yourself in the organization.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eric. If I can ask everybody else to please go on mute, or if you can put everybody else on mute, Eric, that would be great because I've had some background noise. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jonathan Das, and I run a consulting firm called Delta Blade. I'll be co-hosting this panel today. So similarly to Kaizen Consult, we're lean and Kaizen consultants that improve productivity and efficiency in the workplace, and we do this using lean methodologies borrowed from the Toyota ways of working. Together with this, we also provide a data analytics service where we use technology like USSD, our Android app, integration into ERPs to gather, analyze data, and translate it into useful information that allows our clients to act on so as to increase their profitability and competitiveness. So I'll hand you back to Eric to discuss a little bit more around the introduction and the house rules.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. So in the current context, a global pandemic affecting all economies around the world, some countries have been partially closing their borders, putting in place some lockdowns, and preventing the workers sometimes to go to their workplace, disrupting the normal channels of supply chain and distributions, and therefore the operations of businesses. Because of that, because of the length of that period and the uncertainty it brings, businesses have to adjust their operations, their processes, and find innovative solutions to keep delivering to their customers. Today, we want to explore with our panel the challenges they have faced during that period and how they have addressed them. So we are very excited to get started with this webinar today. And we have a broad range of great executives from leading organizations in East Africa, from a wide range of countries and industries. I am sure they will bring great insights on their operational challenges and some of the solutions they have put in place. But first, a little bit of housekeeping and about the structure of the webinar. So we would like to start with about 45 minutes discussion with our panel on the subject of operational challenges in East Africa. And then we will leave about 15 minutes to try to answer some of the questions you in the audience have. And so please do leave some questions in the chat box during the discussion, and we'll try to compile them and try to have them answered at the end of the call, at the end of the session. During this webinar, try to keep your videos off to save a little bit on the bandwidth, and the mics off as well to avoid any disturbance to the discussion. And as for the panelists, you can keep the videos on to be able to see your face, and we'll let you know if you're on mute when you're talking. All right. So today we have the chance to welcome about 6 panelists from different companies and different sectors and activities, all executives of organizations operating in countries in East Africa. They're located in Kenya, in Democratic Republic of Congo, in Tanzania, in Uganda, and they will bring a wealth of expertise to our discussion. I'd like to welcome our panelists. I would like each of you to give a brief introduction about yourself, your organization, and the business you're in. And then you could give the audience a brief idea of the main challenges that you have faced, the operational challenges you have faced during the last few months, and how they impacted your operations. So I'd like to start with Armand, Mr. Armand Houahu, who's the managing director of Textbook Center, who's based in Kenya. Armand, if you'd like to give a few words.
Thank you, Eric. Good morning, everyone. My name is Armand. I'm fortunate to be leading Textbook Center, which is one of the largest book sellers in Africa. We see ourselves as a diversified bookseller because we not only sell books, but we sell everything that contributes to the promotion of education and culture across East Africa. Mainly based in Nairobi. We're a team of roughly 350 employees with a large retail presence in Nairobi and distribution across Kenya and also across East Africa. And unfortunately, we've been, like all of us, deeply impacted by this pandemic crisis, and we've had to almost kind of reinvent our business overnight to be able to survive. So I'd be more than happy to share more details about what we've been doing and what has been kind of helping us. I wouldn't say that we've been highly successful because we're still trying to navigate through this crisis. But the supply chain impact has been pretty deep, and we've been having pretty much to look at how we can keep getting products because we mainly import and we have a small line of manufacturing in China. How we can switch from overnight from a global supply chain where we import from South America, North America, Western Europe, and Southeast Asia to mainly relying on what we have here locally and that is accessible in Africa, along with trying to find ways to reach our customers that are on lockdown for the majority of them. So it has been quite a journey, and I think we're just unfortunately at the beginning of it because, as we know, COVID is not going anywhere anytime soon. So looking forward to discuss this with you and also learn from the other panelists on what they've been doing to keep their business going.
Great. Thank you, Armand. So next, I'd like to introduce Archip, Aimé, Archip, Lobo, and Ngumba, who's the co-founder and chief of operations for NURU based in DRC. Archip, if you want to say a few words. Archip, go ahead.
Sorry, I was on mute. So thanks for giving me this opportunity, Eric, to share about NURU. I am Archip Lobo, a NURU co-founder and the chief of operations. And NURU is an energy company that operates in Eastern Congo. And our aim is to provide for about 5 million delighted clients a world-class connectivity by September 24, 2024. And we are actually now operating in Eastern DRC, mainly in Goma, where we have deployed 1.3 megawatts of solar hybrid system since last February of this year, and we have been seriously experiencing the COVID-19 impacts on our ability to operate. And since most of our goods, equipment, materials are outsourced from several places, Kenya, the US, Europe, China, and right now we are facing many challenges to really keep deploying our distribution infrastructure. And since all the poles, cables, we source them from outside. So, and you know, DRC is one of the countries that depends on different borders, Kenya, port in Mombasa, Uganda, and Rwanda. So, we also depends really on the global transportation systems. So with the COVID-19 right now, everything is kind of slowing down, and even the production in the world is also going slow, which is really affecting our ability to bring goods in DRC, knowing that we are just in 2 months of our commercial phase. So it's a bit of challenge for NURU that way. We are also, we are also having really a social distances and limited staff as many customs and borders, which is just slowing really our ability to clear goods at a real time, and the direct impact it's on our markets. We are not being able to really connect more clients and to reach out our projection revenue as we planned before. So those are kind of the examples, but also our currency is really experiencing a lot of inflation in the local market. So it's also impacting seriously our ability to make the revenue as we projected. So I'll be eager to share more with all the panelists and to learn also from you guys about how COVID has been impacting the supply chain.
Excellent. Thank you, Archip. So next, I'd like to introduce Kavan Shah, who's the Managing Director of Rosewood, Kenya. Kavan.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for setting this up. My name is Kavan Shah. I'm currently the CEO at Rosewood Furniture. We are a family business started about 27 years ago in Kenya, and mainly focus on the supply of office furniture into multi-sectors in Kenya and East Africa, from individual households to all the way up to the top telcos and corporates and government. And we also run a serviced office business called the Business Bar, and we're seeing a change in that market too. So I think in terms of the last few months, office furniture, primarily relying on people sitting in offices, has taken a significant hit because most people have been working from home, at least in that first shock phase. And we found that that was obviously the first hold on sort of capital expenditure and growing your office staff. So we've seen that first phase just about come to an end, where the shock and the working from home has now sort of moved into the back to work movement, coming to work safely, whether offices are doing hygiene programs, they're introducing screens, social distancing, but people are realizing that they do need to come to work. And so we found that side. On the supply chain and distribution, obviously we manufacture half of our furniture, all our desking is locally manufactured, so that's continued. But realizing that small things like a screw or a bolt that we might import as part of a desk might be critical to that we might import. So we've had to sort of come up with innovative solutions around final products. And we import our seating solutions from China, Malaysia, and Korea, and they were obviously affected in different ways. So we had to obviously find alternatives there as well. So yeah, that's my introduction.
Thank you, Kevin. So next, I'd like to introduce you to Hugo Hotte, Operations Director and Acting Managing Director for Fenix International. He's based in Uganda. Hugo, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. So as Eric said, my name is Hugo. I'm originally from Montreal, Canada, but I've been living and working in East Africa since 2010. You may have heard of Fenix International. Fenix is known widely for its solar home system line of business. But 2 years ago, Fenix decided to explore the space of clean cooking. So what my division is doing right now is we are launching and trying a new business model to make cooking with LPG more affordable and more accessible. To achieve that, it's essentially we use an approach of decentralized LPG cooking. So basically the cylinders everybody sees in their kitchen that is then mounted with a controller that allow people to buy gas on a pay-as-you-go basis. So people can buy as little as 15 cents of gas just for some quick cooking. And in parallel to that, we also offer some credit facility for people to eventually own the cook stove. The objective is simply to make to reduce the barrier of entry into the clean cooking like business, essentially. So that's what we do. Right now, some of the key challenges we've faced, our upstream supply chain has not really been disrupted. There are some, there's some like samples that we usually try to get quick and ship by plane that we've had difficulty to get in Uganda. But especially, because of the lack of commercial flights, there's no more cargo or a lot less coming into the country through air freight. But generally the upstream has been okay. For us, it's really been the downstream, because we do the last mile distribution, which means that we, once our customers have run out of gas, we need to go to their house, we need to replace the cylinder. That has created a whole lot of problems, especially in Uganda. There's a curfew that is in place from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. So we have to operate within shorter work hours. For a long time, there was no public transport, so we had to find a way for our employees to go to the workplace. Cars were forbidden for a while, so we had to resort to using motorbikes or provide company motorbike for employees to even be able to move from their house to the workplace. And then the customer interaction became much more fraught. So it becomes really about like, how do you provide social distancing, wherein our field technicians are expected to go into people's home, wearing masks, disinfecting. Then the cylinder itself becomes a potential source of the disease. So those have been a series of challenges. In addition, we had to stop our whole customer acquisition process. Our customer acquisition relied on doing demonstration in open market or at supermarkets. Now these are no longer possible. So it's about changing how can we attract, like, put our product forward, interest customers. And the third one is really about like, I haven't been to the office in 4 months. So it's really hard to stay connected to your staff in this circumstance. So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you, Hugo. Next in line is Kibaya Erisania. He's the managing director of Synchro Watch in Tanzania. Kibaya, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, team. Thank you so much, Eric and team, for having me this morning. Yes, as introduced by Eric, I'm Kibaya, currently managing director at Synchro Watch here in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Synchro Watch is a contracting firm dealing in electrical and mechanical engineering services. We offer electrical services, electrical installation, maintenance services, and power management solutions. Our current biggest clientele is Milcom, trading as Tigo in Tanzania. Before this, I have predominantly been in the telecom sector. And as you might be aware, most of our operations are based on the upstream suppliers, getting spares mainly from China, from India. And this is where we have had a hit from a contractor and data center management perspective. We manage data centers for Milcom Tanzania, and this involves end-to-end, including the spares, stocking, fuel management, ensuring that the teams are on site 24/7. So the impact of COVID on our operations has not been that significant, apart from the stocking levels of the spares that we need to have, and then ensuring that we have adequate, sufficient supply of fuel on site. As an organization, we are also involved in other management of air conditioning systems. We are the current regional partner for Rolls-Royce Power Systems within the East African region. That line of business had also a hit because we are maintaining the MTU engines. So overall, we have had an impact on post-COVID, but quickly what we have learned is inventory management and stock management. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kibaya. Last but not least, Sundeep Bachu, CEO of Jasco Construction, again based in Tanzania. Sundeep.
Thank you, Eric. My name is Sundeep Bachu. I'm the managing director of a road construction company in Tanzania. It's called Jasco. Most of our works or clientele are the government, and the impact that we have had with COVID is actually very minimal. Most of our operations have actually been more or less normal from day one. Something additional that has really helped out is the government's approach to it, because they have minimized the way the people and the country as a whole look at this virus. So the impact with that is that life has been pretty normal, and taking into account that we are a country that is still developing, there would have been a very big impact if the awareness had been more dramatic. To a certain extent, we are actually very well off than other countries, I would say. So that's the brief from our side.
Excellent. Thanks for the introduction. I'll now give the room to Jonathan, who will be facilitating the discussion further.
All right, thank you, Eric, and thank you to our panelists, the team here, for sharing your challenges. Quite an interesting and diverse set of challenges from Uganda, which I think, just judging by the sentiment, probably had the most strictest and stringent lockdowns, to Tanzania, where it appears that it's almost business as usual. And also quite a variety of challenges faced across different regions and different sectors. But I'd like to focus our conversation today, based on the discussion we had just earlier, around two particular pain points that have come up during this COVID period, and that's around supply chain. And we can think about supply chain as the movement of raw materials from the producer or manufacturer external to your business, to your manufacturing or production site. And secondly, the distribution, which we can define as the finished goods movement from the production site or your manufacturing place to the customer, right? So just to give a brief introduction, Kenya as a state took some measures at the start of April to restrict movements between counties, especially between the two major hubs, Nairobi and Mombasa. Subsequently, they closed the borders with exception of cargo with neighboring countries. Armand, you mentioned in the start that there were some significant challenges with regard to distribution. I know your business is centered around good distribution, whether coming to the retail shops from overseas, e-commerce, online consumers. How would you say this challenge is, maybe you can go into more detail around this challenge, and what are the solutions that you're putting in place to be able to mitigate these problems?
Yes, thanks, Jonathan. So one of the positive impact, should I say, that COVID has had on our distribution to our consumers has been that it accelerated overnight the adoption of online shopping. So one of our segments of distribution is e-commerce on top of our retail, on top of our stores business, and also on top of our wholesale business. E-commerce, which used to represent a very tiny part of our business, literally grew triple digit month on month for the past 4 months. And that literally happened overnight. The moment the first case was announced in Kenya, so that was March 16. The week after, we've received 5 times more orders that we do. So that, I think that was a great impact, and that was a very positive impact. On the back end, that kind of revealed that we do not have the operations set up to support an e-commerce business, because we're at heart for the past 65 years that we've been trading. We've been more of a wholesale-driven business, where we ship full truckload of and full pallet loads of products to other distributors and other retailers across the country and across East Africa. To now having to ship 1 book, 5 pens, and maybe 2 laptop accessories to a customer really deep in the western of Kenya has been quite challenging for us, and also not doing it into the single digit of orders per day, but doing it at scale, almost into the quadruple digit of orders on a daily basis. Have literally pushed us to shift overnight from being a wholesaler to become more of a direct to consumer online business, and also have to set up the operations for it. So what we decided to do was to because we have a wide network of distributors across the country, to tap into that network and to try to fulfill some of these orders directly from our distributors and from our partners in our country. The other issue that brought is that we didn't have any of the data on the inventory, so we didn't know who was holding what, and it literally we had to use our customer service team to call the main customers, to call our main distributors of the country, to start to see what they could fulfill and what we had to actually fulfill from Nairobi. What we also did was to tap into our retail network, our own branches in Nairobi, to start fulfilling some of these orders, depending on which part of Nairobi the order was coming from. So if there was a customer in Westlands, then we'll be dispatching it to our branch in Westlands, etc. But all of this kind of represented about half of the demand of our online business since COVID started. Which we to be able to fulfill the other half, we literally set up a fulfillment center dedicated to online orders. We managed to do that within around 1 week of hard work, and now I would say that it's slightly doing better, but we definitely understand that we need to invest to really support this channel of activity, as this is a lot of people were all talking about the new norm of post-COVID. Post-COVID, we don't have any idea of when that's going to happen and how that's going to happen. But I'm pretty sure that the new norm will be online shopping on top of going to physical branches.
So Armand, I have a question for you. So how did you take social distancing or public health advice in even just setting up your fulfillment center, and how did you do that?
So we did it. First of all, there was a reduced team working on it. I think what happened in Nairobi and across Kenya is that we do have a curfew, but we didn't have a complete lockdown. So Nairobi has been on lockdown, so people were still able to move in and to move within Nairobi, but not in and out of Nairobi. So pretty much we've been operating the whole time. The team has been coming to the office drastically reduced because about 20% of the team have been sent on leave because of the level of activities. And the team in the office and in the warehouse obviously has been trained and educated on the health advice to be able to fight COVID. And so we've been following all these guidelines, which are pretty much the same across the board. Yes.
Okay. Just to follow up on your discussion, Armand, thank you very much. With regard to, so kind of post-COVID, do you see your business evolving into a more online retail store where you will then kind of phase out your textbook center shops, which are located in Nairobi, and then moving into a more online presence and setting up the distribution more geared towards online?
Accelerating online, absolutely. There's a strong demand for it. Phasing out some of our stores right now, maybe not. Eventually, I think repurposing these stores into providing more of an experience to consumers still wanting to come to shops will definitely happen. While also using them as pickup centers for some of the customers that prefer to come pick up in the shops. We're now fully adding an online component to our distribution, and while before it was kind of merged into our stores activities, now it's becoming a full standalone of our distribution. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Kavan, if I can just jump onto you and have a quick discussion. So we've worked together for a couple of years now.
Yep.
And I know that your business relies on a good supply chain of ready-made products, raw materials, as you mentioned, that were coming from Southeast Asia. You're seeing kind of demand for COVID-19 products, screens, social distancing kind of, layouts.
Yep.
From your point of view, what would you say? How are you meeting this demand? Number one, for these new products, and how are you able to tackle the challenges with regards to the supply chain, so raw materials and finished products?
Sure. So I think the first major thing to happen was the spike in demand for home office furniture, right? So we've supplied home offices probably once a month for the last few years, and then sort of 400 people all at once needed a desk and a chair in their house. And so similarly, we're geared towards, corporate processes. You get a quotation, then we approve, then we, home office is a lot more retail based, similar to sort of the TBC story. We had to learn how to deliver tomorrow and like stock up quickly, and people just want to come, pay, put in their car and go. So it's a very new process for us, and that involved just simplifying the range to sort of 2 types of desks, 2 types of chairs, and making it quick and easy. So I think that was one of the learnings, is simplifying your range at this time and learning what you really want to sell. Then beyond that, we were sort of completing projects that continue to go. So we had to identify sort of new and alternative suppliers within Kenya and abroad very quickly, and understand so both Kaizen and Lean have been teaching us about Kanban levels and reorder levels. So with demand falling, completely, we had to sort of readjust our stock levels very fast so that we weren't going to be overstocked for, what would have been 2 months of stock of something now is worth 9 months, right? So just trying to be very smart on stocking and new purchases so we don't increase our cash hold, cash tied up in stock. And then we found that there was a need for better forecasting. So we've been trying to get this forecasting game correct for a long time now. Obviously, all numbers out the window, but there was almost a need to build a scenario planning thing that said, when COVID started, we were like, in 3 weeks, everything will be fine. So it's a blip. Then it was in 3 months, everything will be fine. Then it's now, it might be 3 years, everything will be fine. So understanding a model in which we forecasted best, medium, and worst case scenarios of sales, and therefore supply. And oddly enough, the thing we don't want to be caught out on is when things do pick up and we forecasted too low and then we run out of stock and it takes, 2 months to replenish. So I think I can see people shaking their head that you don't end up out of stock either. So there's a fine balance between like toning it down and then being ready for when things ramp up again. So that's been the real challenge, I think. And that's it really, just taking decisive action on those areas.
Okay, so simplifying the range, understanding your stock levels, and forecasting, you would say, are the key challenges. Those are the
All right, and maybe just one more is that obviously to manufacture furniture, you need a full factory. So when we lost half our workforce every day when we were rotating or social distancing, there was a lot more efficiency gains as well. Obviously demand was lower, so output was lower, but we just learned how to work with fewer people. And that's sort of an outcome of something we've always been trying to do. And now we sort of had to test that theory as well.
All right. Now, I had just a question on so you've had to, like, in terms of your chairs, look for new suppliers coming from Malaysia.
Yeah.
Has that been an uphill task? Was that easy to find? How were you able to set up your new contracts and negotiate?
The reality is, because Southeast Asia is the cheapest competitively, once China did open up, and Malaysia and Korea, actually we just probably ended up back to them. I think there's also a risk of too much change. Like the chance of COVID happening again is fairly small. Like obviously it happened, but we did have a range of suppliers, but they all got closed down at the same time. So it's not like we could move to any other country. So actually we concluded on that strategically, like we had a wide range. We're happy with them. This thing affected all of them simultaneously across all the countries. So actually we're just going to pivot back to making sure we have a wide range again. And there's not much we can do in that scenario, oddly.
Yeah, and then going forward, do you see like having kind of reserve suppliers in the list, like having set up, contracts that in case some suppliers can't supply, that you're able to then leverage your network on other suppliers that you've managed to work with?
Yes, I think internationally that's easier. I think locally is where we're learning that, because in case COVID forces any companies to close, smaller companies who supply, nuts and bolts and widgets, that's actually where we have the challenge, because we might have been relying on a local supplier who's been with us 20 years. I think that's been the learning, that we need alternative local suppliers. Actually, internationally, much easier because, millions of companies doing everything. So locally is where people couldn't get out of the port. People couldn't get doing all sorts of interesting things like that. And I've just seen a question on online. So yes, again, online presence is useful. But we supply corporates who traditionally still have quite traditional processes in placing orders for $10,000, $20,000 of furniture. So we've sort of thought about new ways to improve that process without them coming to the office necessarily.
Yeah. All right. Great. Thank you very much. Thanks, Kavan, for that. So just going back to the panel. So from what we understand, the Tanzanian government has taken a different approach by staying away from lockdowns and restrictions. Kibaya, as you had mentioned, Tanzania does rely on trade between the SADC region and some of the trade with East African countries. You mentioned your business is centered around telecom services and working out in remote locations. So maybe you can just go further into discussing how you've managed to, work with your team, organize your team to meet the work and provide the service. Are you there with us?
Thanks, Jonathan. I just want to quickly highlight a few things, just picking up from the fact that, yes, the Tanzanian government has not had a complete lockdown, like what probably Uganda, Kenya, and all the other territories have had. But then our experience has shown that lack of a complete lockdown still has an impact on the bigger farms. On smaller farms, small and medium enterprises, yes, if you don't have a lockdown, they are able to survive. But then when you have a supply chain that is globally interconnected, and then China has locked down, India has locked down. So even if Tanzania has not locked down, we still found out that there was a huge impact on our upstream suppliers. For example, just before COVID, we had placed an order for compressors from the UK. We had placed an order for air conditioning units from India. And on the compressors that we had placed an order from the UK, we had a significant 2 months delay. So even when these compressors we managed to pick them up to Nairobi, picking them from Nairobi up to Dar es Salaam took another 3 weeks delay. So yes, there was no complete lockdown in Tanzania, but then for services that rely on a supply chain that is globally interconnected, there has been a hit. Yeah. But for smaller farms, yes, definitely they were able to survive as usual. Now,
so if I can just pick up, if I can just pick up before we go further on the 2 months delay that you faced for these compressors coming out of the UK. What were the, what are the solutions, or how were you able to manage that situation with your client and or come up with an alternative supplier? Maybe you can go into that.
Yes, unfortunately, we did not have local alternative suppliers for these particular compressors, because these are huge compressors where the manufacturers are quite limited globally. So what we had now to do is to have a revised maintenance routine for the units that required these compressors. So the teams were now dedicated on site and babysitting these air conditioning units to ensure that nothing goes wrong. So it required us now to sort of have a revised maintenance routine and keep the units running until these compressors were able to be shipped into the country.
Okay.
And still on the part of the impact on the upstream supply chain, whereas we had gotten an order from India at a specified sum of logistics charge, eventually when we were about to place the order, the logistics managing company on the other side said, no, the logistics charges have increased 100%. And yet we had already gotten a PO from the client. Now, all of a sudden, the charges have gone up. So we have now to go back into the negotiation of the contract that we had actually initially sealed. So as much as the Tanzanian government has not had a lockdown, but there has been an impact in one way or the other because of the interconnectedness of the global supply chain. Now, as an organization, how have we been able to manage the teams during this lockdown? First of all, it became mandatory that we look for ways of ensuring that our staff are able to reach the sites in any way. So we had to introduce dedicated transport model for our engineers, pick them from home, drop them to site. Because the services that we are providing as an organization is a 24-hour based monitoring service. We have to have our engineers on the data centers 24/7. So we had to arrange for private transport for the engineers to pick them from their homes, drop them to the data center and back home to avoid them getting into the public means of transport. And then we had to set up bulk fuel reserve tanks on all the data centers, because then we were afraid that the supply chain in terms of fuel management and delivery to the sites could be an issue. So we had to set up bulk fuel facilities on all our sites to ensure that we had fuel available 24/7. And then additionally, we had to ensure that we have enough stock of spare parts that we normally use in the day-to-day maintenance of the telecom infrastructure. So this is how we've been able to survive up to this time. And we thank God, yes, we think the situation seems to be getting better globally, and most of the supply chain opening up.
Okay, thank you for that. If I can just pick up from there. So you've talked about an increase in distribution charges that made you renegotiate with your customers. You've had to dedicate increase in transport, which then tells me that your costs are going up. You've had to increase your storage, bulk fuels, your working capital is being consumed. How has that? How have you managed? Maybe you can just go slightly into that on using up, because it looks like there's more cash being used up. Has there been some assistance? How have you managed to do that?
Yeah, fortunately, what we did, we had a very close engagement with Milcom Tanzania, where we agreed on the business continuity plan. We said, look, this is our business continuity plan. This is the amount of cash that we will need for us to survive for the next 6 months. Out of this cash that we need for us to survive for the next 6 months, how much of this can you be able to push on us in terms of advance payment? So we discussed with our upstream immediate client for a cushion in terms of advance payment on some of the stocks that are very critical to the running of the data centers. So the experience that we've had from this COVID scenario is a very close relationship between the contractor and the client. So there has to be a very close relationship in terms of the continuity business planning on our side, as well as tying it into the business continuity planning mechanism of the client, so that we have a seamless service at the end of the day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, we're still on Tanzania. Sundeep, we've talked many times about road construction, about getting asphalt aggregates on time to your sites, getting your machinery and equipment ready for road construction, and similarly also reducing your cash burn rate. Now, you mentioned in the start that you've had limited impact due to the COVID-19 scenario. How would you say that with regard to products or like bitumen coming in from abroad, how have you managed to deal with that challenge, and what are the solutions that you have put in place?
One of the challenges, the minimum challenges that we've had is in importation. Importation, I would say, of spare parts and various type of raw materials. So some of the raw materials would be bitumen, special type of steel structures, and if there's any importation of equipment, which is done from time to time. However, the delay would have been a couple of weeks. Those are more, we term them mainly as capital goods when it comes down to equipment. And if it's in terms of raw materials, we've always kept a big amount of supply, so we have quite a bit of stock in place that can cover us from 2 to 3 months, because we are constantly importing bitumen and a lot of raw materials. So the impact that happened, to Mr. Kibaya in terms of the supply chain, I would say was just something that was not taken into account in advance. If there were measures taken into account in terms of having sufficient stock, definitely taking into account the amount of financial strength that the company holds, these things could have been avoided. On the other side, that is basically maybe the only impact that we have had. The other impact that we have had is just trying to show the awareness, because not many of our employees, we have quite a bit of semi-skilled and skilled employees, close to about 700 employees in total. And it's to give them the awareness, because everything has been downplayed. So just to keep a bit of awareness in terms of social distancing, sanitizing, providing sanitizers and masks to all employees on a regular basis. 700 employees is quite a bit of a task, taking into account that these are various projects across Tanzania. So we're running approximately 5 projects currently in various parts of Tanzania, and that is one of the only challenges. But apart from that, in terms of our payments from the government, they've been coming through. In terms of employees turning up, or let's say talking about curfews, we've had none of that. The only impact that was there initially, and now it's more or less subsided, is the importation, which we managed to tackle it way in advance. So yeah, that's it for me.
That's quite a positive outlook from Tanzania. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, if I just go on to Uganda, so Uganda took a more stringent approach and went into lockdown for almost 2 months to combat the spread of virus, except for cargo and essential travel. Hugo, like Kavan, your business really relies on a good distribution to get the products to the clients, and you discussed some of that in the earlier discussion. What I'd like to just go into is, there's a lot of different mechanisms that you've brought up. Being able to work with the curfew, the shorter hours, no commercial flights, so your shipping has not been favorable. Maybe you can just go into more depth in terms of how you'll be able to mitigate these challenges and take care of them.
Yeah. So right now, in terms of to address the distribution challenge, really, as I mentioned, we previously used open truck vehicles where we could load, 5 to 8 cylinders and cluster the customers together. So we would do like one single round of distribution. Now, once all private vehicles were basically banned, it became extremely difficult to get the authorization to do distribution this way. So instead, we had already started some pilots on distributing using motorbikes. So we quickly recovered these and asked our delivery drivers, the ones that were able to drive a motorbike, to simply do like a one-to-one distribution. So it becomes a lot more inefficient, but it allowed us to maintain a certain minimal level of service to our customers. So right now things are opening up a little more, so we're able to do more cluster distribution again. But the real challenge is around customer acquisition. Before, it's no longer really feasible to set up a demonstration table and put your product out there and to really attract the attention and interact with hundreds of people. So right now what we're testing is see how we can really move towards referral. So we're contacting our customers to see the ones that have given us positive feedback in the past, and try to create a program to incentivize them to refer friends or family, so that we can, the friends or family can already see the product, and we can just distribute a new unit in the neighborhood. So that's the approach we're thinking of using.
So if I can just jump onto that, Hugo. So you've talked about customer acquisition, you've talked about product presentations, and it's been difficult. Are you able to leverage digital platforms or digital means to be able to do that going forward?
So we don't have a website yet, so we were not ready for that. However, we had a Facebook page going, and so we were we ran some of those promotions through the Facebook page to attract referrals. The next step, if things really don't change, we'll have to try to build a website and use, we have some promotional videos that provide a good introduction to the product, and see if we can start attracting attention and interest that way. So yeah, right now we are not in a position to do that. But if the current restrictions and fear from the customers and our employees continue, we'll have to be more creative and use other mechanisms.
Okay. In the interest of time, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut short on this and go into our last panelist. With regard to the DRC, the first COVID-19 case was detected in Ngumba, the main business district in Kinshasa. The government moved swiftly to introduce a lockdown, but the virus has since spread to 7 of the country's 26 provinces, including the mining hub of Lubumbashi. Archip, mini-grid solar installations require, as you mentioned, a lot of imports from Asia. And like Sundeep, you need to have your projects running with sufficient resources. Maybe you can go into how you've managed to keep the projects running, and what have you set up to be able to have your resources there.
So yeah, again, thanks. On our side, as I said, NURU is producing power. We also trade and distribute power in Eastern Congo, right now mainly in Goma, where we have deployed 1.3 megawatts of solar hybrid system in Goma. But also we have into our pipeline a lot of sites where we want to deploy additional 23 megawatts of energy capacity by 2021. And the only reason why we exist is because we want to provide a world-class connectivity experience to our clients. And that depends on our ability to really provide a quick service and also connect quickly clients once they are onboarded. And all this depends really on our ability to have enough equipment and materials into our stock, poles, cables, meters, and to do that, but also to have enough human resource capacity to deploy on the ground to connect our clients. But so far, we haven't been able to provide the world-class experience efficiently. Why? That's only because we have been running out of stock many times, not because we couldn't anticipate that by ordering more equipment, but with the lockdown situation, and knowing that we also depend really on the international market, we are actually importing most of our equipment. Even our suppliers, they have been struggling since, with the limited staff in their factories, the production went quite down. But also with the transporters that we are dealing with, they have to go through several countries where there is lockdown, like in Kenya, from Kenya to Uganda, then up to DRC. It could take them most of, in the past, even 3 days to ship poles, for example. But now with the COVID situation, is taking for about a month. For example, we ordered a number of poles from Kenya, but it took us almost 3 months to get them here around. So we kind of delaying a lot to connect our clients. So that has been one of the biggest challenge.
So just hanging on that. Sorry, Archip. So what have you done to be able to combat that, mitigate that delay? Is there anything that you can do? Number one.
So what we did now is, so before we were working only with just limited providers. We used this opportunity now to scale up our ability to identify many providers at a regional level, but also at a local market. So that's we have been also able to start manufacturing pools locally. We identified some of the people with the capacity to quickly supply some of the metals and good technicians that can produce pools locally. That's have allowed us also to look at the local market as an opportunity where we can be able to just mitigate those issues. But also just on a human resource capacity to deploy that, with the social distancing, the reality, we have been able really also really to integrate into our payment system, a mobile money payment system, just to kind of make sure we can continue to provide the best service to our clients and also recover money. So that's because we have been also experiencing the fact that most of the clients with the lockdown situation couldn't move up to our office to pay. So really on the supply chain side, we have also just used this opportunity to then publish more tender that's allowed us to identify much of providers and vendors to mitigate those issues. So right now we have been able also to kind of anticipate our inventory and stock management, because now we have also identified some of the transporters and suppliers who have been also competitive during the COVID situation to anticipate how to provide good services. So
All
that's how we have been doing that around.
Thank you very much, Archip. Now, in the interest of time, I'll hand it back to Eric. There are a couple of questions that have come through, and I'll hand it back for you to deal with deal with those and hand them to the panelists.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks everyone for your participation. Just maybe one question that came up about local manufacturing. I mean, Archip had a word about that, and how can we, as businesses, use more of the local factories, local manufacturing, and how can we empower them to help with our businesses and develop them to support businesses as well. I don't know, maybe Kavan, I think that question was a bit addressed to you. Maybe you can give us some more content on that.
Yes, so we've been local manufacturing office furniture for about 20 years now. And we think the big win there is obviously not to hold massive stock on a variety of goods. However, some of the things that are difficult to local manufacture are things that we don't have the volumes for. Like chairs, you need plastic, wheels and arms, which in China they make millions a day or millions a month, and we use sort of 1,000 a month. So that's where the real thing is. And we're finding some challenges where the government is making it difficult to set up new factories, tax laws. So I'm in this very interesting place where half my business is local, half is imported. I would actually say importing is easier operationally, but it drains cash. So it's a very balanced act that it would be good to make something locally where you can gain some competitive advantage. And it'd be great if the government supported us with cheaper power, easier employment laws, things like that. So that's my stance.
Excellent, thank you. Does any other panelists want to bring some insight on that? All right, then we're good to go. I think in the interest of time, we'll cut it here. Thank you very much to everyone, participants and panelists. I think it's been a great discussion. Obviously not enough time to cover everything, and may have some follow-up discussion at some point. Again, thanks a lot for participating, for joining the call, and wish you a very good day.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thanks, everyone.
Yeah. All right.